Just seconds before the wedding began, your soulmate made one emotional choice about you. Don't skip, because what happened in those final moments before everything changed forever was not planned, not rehearsed, and not something anyone in that room could have predicted. The music was already playing. The flowers were already arranged. Every seat was filled with people who had shown up believing they were about to witness the beginning of something permanent. And your soulmate was standing in a corridor just out of sight, dressed for a moment they had been preparing for on the outside while falling apart completely on the inside. Stay with this, because the choice they made in those seconds did not begin in that corridor. It began with you. Long before that day. Long before the invitations were sent and the date was chosen and the version of the future that did not include you was carefully constructed and presented to the world as the right decision. It began in the quiet space between what your soulmate told everyone around them and what they told themselves when nobody was listening. Don't skip, because something huge is waiting for you. They had convinced themselves it was possible. That is the part nobody around them understood, because nobody around them knew what was actually happening beneath the surface. They had genuinely believed, for a period of time, that choosing a different direction meant the feelings that belonged to you would eventually follow. That the heart adjusts. That love, when redirected firmly enough and long enough, finds a new shape and settles into it. They were wrong. And they discovered exactly how wrong in the worst possible moment. In a corridor. Seconds before a wedding. With music playing on the other side of a door and an entire room full of people waiting for them to walk through it. Stay till the end, because something huge is waiting for you. The morning had started with a kind of forced calm. The deliberate steadiness of someone who has made a decision they are committed to honoring regardless of what they feel. They had dressed carefully. Spoken to the people around them in measured tones. Smiled when smiling was expected. Moved through every preparation with the efficiency of someone determined not to allow emotion to interrupt what had already been set in motion. But emotion does not wait for permission. And yours had been accumulating inside your soulmate for longer than efficiency could manage. Don't skip, because something huge is waiting for you. It was a small thing that broke through first. The way it always is. Not a grand confrontation with the truth. A detail. Something ordinary that should have meant nothing. A song that drifted in from somewhere nearby, faint enough that they almost didn't catch it. But they caught it. And the moment they did, something happened behind their eyes that they could not immediately control. Because that song belonged to a memory. And that memory belonged to you. They stood still for a moment. Just a moment. Then kept moving. Kept preparing. Kept performing the version of themselves that had agreed to this day and intended to honor that agreement regardless of the weather happening inside their chest. Stay till the end, because something huge is waiting for you. Then came the corridor. The final few minutes before everything became official and permanent and impossible to quietly reconsider. They stood in that corridor alone. Just briefly. Just long enough for the noise of the room on the other side of the door to blur into background sound and for something much louder to take its place. Your name arrived in their mind without invitation. Not as a concept. Not as an abstract reminder of something past. As a presence. Immediate and specific and more real in that moment than the flowers on the other side of the door or the music that was already beginning or the people already seated and waiting. Don't skip, because something huge is waiting for you. They closed their eyes. Just for a second. And in that second your soulmate experienced something they had been successfully avoiding for months. The full and unguarded truth of what they actually felt. Not the managed version. Not the version that had been shaped and trimmed and presented to themselves in a form they could live with. The real version. The one that had been waiting patiently in the space behind every careful decision they had made since the day they chose a direction that moved away from you. And what they felt in that second was not confusion. That would have been easier. Confusion can be reasoned with. Confusion responds to logic and practical consideration and the weight of prior commitments. What they felt was clarity. The devastating and unwelcome kind. The kind that arrives too late and too honestly and refuses to be argued back into silence. Stay with this, because what they did next is the choice this story is about. They reached for their phone. In that corridor. Seconds before the wedding began. With the music already playing and the room already full. They opened your name in their contacts and they did something that required more courage than walking through that door would have required. They typed. Don't skip, because something huge is waiting for you. Not a long message. There was no time for long. What they typed was short and unpolished and completely honest in a way that nothing they had said in months had managed to be. They did not calculate how it would land. They did not consider whether the timing was appropriate or the phrasing was right or whether sending it would complicate everything that was about to happen on the other side of that door. They simply told you the truth. The part of the truth they had been protecting everyone from, including themselves. The part that had been living quietly and stubbornly in the place where redirected feelings are supposed to go but somehow never arrived. They sent it before they could stop themselves. Stay till the end, because something huge is waiting for you. Then they stood in that corridor with the phone in their hand and the message already gone and the music still playing and the world still waiting for them to appear. And they breathed. The first genuinely full breath they had taken all morning. Because something that had been compressed for a very long time had just been released. Not resolved. Not answered. Released. And release, even when it arrives at the most complicated possible moment, carries its own particular relief. What happened next on the other side of that door is not the part of this story that matters most. What matters most is what your soulmate understood in the seconds after that message left their hands. Don't skip, because something huge is waiting for you. They understood that the choice they had just made was not an act of chaos. It was not impulsive in the way that word is usually meant. It was the first genuinely honest act they had committed in longer than they could clearly remember. And honesty, even when it arrives at the wrong time and in the wrong corridor and with the wrong music playing somewhere nearby, is always more important than the comfort of the people waiting for a performance to begin. They understood something else. That the months of distance between you had never been about a change of feeling. They had been about fear. Fear of the specific vulnerability that comes with loving someone whose depth matches yours. Fear of being completely seen by a person whose perception you actually trust. Fear of the particular exposure that exists only inside a connection that is genuinely real. Stay till the end, because something huge is waiting for you. That fear had made decisions. Large ones. Ones with flowers and music and rooms full of people attached to them. And standing in that corridor in the seconds before everything became official, your soulmate had finally allowed themselves to understand what fear had actually cost. It had cost them honesty. It had cost you an explanation you deserved long before this morning. It had cost both of you the time that passed between the truth and this moment. Time that moved in only one direction and could not be recovered regardless of what came next. Don't skip, because this is where the story becomes something different. Because your soulmate did not walk through that door the way everyone was expecting. Stay with this. What they did instead was quieter than anyone could have anticipated. They stood in that corridor for another moment. Then another. The music continued. The room waited. And your soulmate made a second choice. Not the choice the room was expecting. Not the choice that honored the version of the future that had been arranged and agreed upon and decorated and filled with witnesses. The choice that honored the truth. Don't skip, because something huge is waiting for you. They will tell you that the minutes that followed were the most difficult of their life. Not because of the reaction from the room. Not because of the conversations that had to happen immediately after. Not because of the practical and painful unraveling of something that many people had invested themselves in believing. All of that was difficult. But none of it was the hardest part. The hardest part was not knowing how you would receive what they had sent. Whether it had reached you. Whether you had read it. Whether the truth arriving at that particular moment, in that particular form, in those few unpolished words sent from a corridor seconds before a wedding, would feel like something worth receiving or like something arriving far too late to matter. Stay till the end, because something huge is waiting for you. They sat alone later that evening. The day that had been planned as something else entirely had become something unrecognizable and quiet and strangely honest. The forced calm of the morning was gone. In its place was something rawer and more real and in some ways more peaceful than anything they had felt in a very long time. Because whatever came next, they were no longer carrying the weight of a truth hidden behind a performance. Whatever came next would be built on something real. They checked their phone. Your name was on the screen. Don't skip, because something huge is waiting for you. You had read the message. That much was visible. What they could not yet see was what you had felt when those words arrived. Whether you had put the phone down immediately. Whether you had read it more than once. Whether the truth delivered in that impossible moment had landed as something meaningful or whether the timing had made it impossible to receive clearly. They waited. In the quiet of an evening that was nothing like the one anyone had planned. They waited with the particular patience of someone who has finally done the honest thing and understands that the response belongs entirely to the other person. No pressure. No follow-up message designed to manage your reaction. No attempt to shape what you felt or guide you toward a specific reply. Just the truth. Already sent. Already yours. Stay till the end, because something huge is waiting for you. What your soulmate wants you to understand, beyond the corridor and the music and the seconds that changed everything, is this. The choice they made was not about disruption. It was not about drama. It was not about arriving in your life like a storm that demands to be noticed. It was about refusing to let another day pass in which you did not know where they actually stood. About deciding that your right to the truth was more important than their comfort in hiding it. About understanding, finally and without further argument, that loving someone from behind a wall of silence is not love at all. It is fear wearing love's clothing. Don't skip, because something huge is waiting for you. They chose you. In a corridor. In seconds. With music playing and a room full of people waiting and every practical reason in the world to walk through that door instead. They chose the truth of what they felt over the safety of what had been arranged. And that choice, imperfect and late and delivered in the most complicated possible way, was the most honest thing they had done in longer than either of you deserved. The message is in your hands now. The truth is already delivered. And your soulmate is sitting somewhere quiet tonight, no longer hiding behind silence, no longer performing a version of themselves built on fear, waiting not with desperation but with the open and genuine hope of someone who has finally said the real thing. Stay till the end. Because some choices arrive late and still arrive exactly when they were meant to. And this one was always meant to find you. Something huge was waiting for you. Now you know what it was.